Self-sufficiency, a term used by growers, smallholders, homesteaders and even preppers. But what does it even mean? Is it even possible? And is it even worth doing? That's what we're looking at in today's video. We are going back in time looking at how things used to be with allotments and how self-sufficiency looked back then. And also we are asking across the holdings what self-sufficiency means to them. I'm Kirsty, my husband's Dean. I hope you enjoy the video. Cambridge Dictionary states that being self-sufficient means having the ability to provide everything you need to survive or function without relying on outside help or resources. When people start their self-sufficient journey, they often start with growing their own food and expand from there. However, what true self-sufficiency looks like can be different for everyone. Many sources declare to be truly self-sufficient that you need 1 to 2 acres of land per person or 5 acres for the average family, but that can vary hugely on the type of land that is and the time you have to use it. The amount of land you need reduces dramatically if you follow a vegan or vegetarian diet or have the knowledge to forage or hunt where laws allow. With the space required, does that mean that self-sufficiency shouldn't even be attempted if you live in a small space? Not at all. That's something we contemplated when our smallholding dreams were destroyed. However, we realised that there is elements of self-sufficiency in many things. Things like repairing your own clothes and growing something as simple as lettuce make you more self-sufficient. It used to be what everybody did, but what changed? Before the Industrial Revolution, people grew their own food. All people did. That was just part of life. During the Industrial Revolution, people moved to cities and started working in factories, and they were in more confined spaces to live with small gardens, if any. However, this caused a threat of starvation, so something needed to be done. In 1845, the General Enclosure Act was created, stating that provision needed to be provided for people to grow their own food. However, it wasn't until 1887 where local authorities were forced to do so. The Smallholding and Allotment Act of 1908 further increased these requirements and forced parishes and local councils to provide growing space where required. That rule still applies today. The start of the First World War saw a need for allotments and growing space to be increased to combat the food shortages. However, after the war ended, those allotments and growing spaces were given back and houses were built in their place. This pattern was repeated in the Second World War. More modern times, with the increase of food stores, supermarkets, and the development of online shopping, allotments decreased even further. However, in 2020, people wanted to go back, growing more of their own food and learning more about that way of life. So the need has increased, but the space that's been allocated hasn't, which is why allotment waiting lists can be so high now. If we didn't get the plot on the side of the shop my dad runs, we would be on a waiting list of around 4 years. 4 years is a long time to wait, so that's why we are grateful we can grow where we are now. The rules on allotments have also changed. At one time you were allowed more than chickens. My dad has fond memories of his granddad's plots having pigs for meat, chickens for eggs and meat, and goats for dairy. My dad's granddad had 3 plots to feed his large family of 13. He was able to grow the majority of food for him and his family in that space, which would have been around 1/4 of an acre altogether. If you don't have the space, allotments are amazing. However, not having your growing space on site can have its issues, and that's what we're going to look at now.
Right, hello everybody. You've caught me in a flipping terrible mood. We haven't been to our plot for just over a week. Arrive at the plot, dead tree, super aggravating because we use that elderflower tree. We get elderberry syrup and everything out of that, and squash and whatnot. I mean, this tub used to have like 8 bulbs of garlic, elephant garlic, which has either been stolen by animals or twacked out of my garden. And then I come to my greenhouse and everything's overrun with bindweed. We've practically lost 90% of the fruit in there to the bindweed. So that's another thing that's just wound me the flip up. So, and then if you want to come over, see how bad the bindweed is. All the wheat, or the oats, I can't remember which.
That's wheat, that one.
That's the wheat. Overrun with bindweed. And then all the spring area is black. Like, why do I bother? So, that's where we are right now. So, I'm gonna have to convert all of my energy from a rant into actually trying to get on and see what I can get done. And I'll try and bring you back if my mood's picked up any. But I'm not in a good mood today, so.
Right, we've got a cuppa and we are going to save what we can and try and get a bit more positive. We think we know what's happened to that tree. The other side of the fence, the brambles have been killed off, so what we think is they've been sprayed with something and that's went on to the elder and killed that. We've still got that one there. That's the one that we keep quite high for the birds. So it looks like we won't be using any elderberry this year. Luckily I've still got a little bit in the freezer from last year. I don't really want to touch them brambles now if they've had a weed killer sprayed on them. So I'll have to forage some from elsewhere. So this is one of the most frustrating parts on our strive to self-sufficiency, because unfortunately other people use pesticides and that causes bindweed because the pesticides and weed killers they use aren't strong enough to kill it, and then we're left with it destroying our plot. It's the price we pay for not wanting food that have been sprayed with chemicals. Well, it's just a minor blip. We'll be in a better mood soon. Just a little frustrating. Just weeding the carrots. So our focus today is saving what we can before we tackle the things like the bindweed and things. We need to prioritise saving the food that hasn't been strangled by it and see what's left. It might be a case of buying some filler crops to replace the ones we've lost. harvested the rest of our garlic. We did leave it a little longer because these were the smaller bulbs. Unfortunately, they have succumbed to rust, but we are going to cut them off and put them in the fire pit. The garlic themselves are absolutely fine. They are small, but they'll be fine getting pickled. They've all cloved up, so we'll still get a decent amount from them. They'll just be a bit more of a fiddly job. So the sides of the fruit cage were completely overgrown by the bindweed. Nadine's pulled it all off. We're going to salvage what fruit bushes we can, and the netting is going to need completely redoing, but we're going to have to think of a way of blocking the bindweed from coming through over the back there, as it's not accessible to get rid of over there. So is the target of self-sufficiency even worth it? To us, it is. Even though that we go and lose a complete harvest, even though the slugs eat a lot, even though the weeds take hold of everything, the satisfaction and how much we appreciate food completely makes it all worthwhile. And we'll never, I don't think we ever will go back to just buying everything in the supermarket.
Hi guys, me again, you know, that social goblin that I am, as usual, jumping in to the video somewhere, I don't know where, Kirsty will put me in somewhere, just asking for those likes and subscribes, maybe a little comment, really does help the channel. Thank you very much everybody out there, and back to the video. Away we go!
So is complete self-sufficiency even possible? Yes, but it would be a huge struggle to do alone, and even more likely to achieve without some sort of income. As Susan from High Country Homestead says, sometimes you just need cold, hard cash. And she lives with her daughter on 167 plus acres, so she really does know what she's talking about. Complete self-sufficiency would require the land to grow every bit of your own food, plus the animals that you are raising for your meat and dairy and your pets and everything like that. It would also require you to have your own water source, your own power supply, your own fuel for cooking and things like that, along with the ability to for herbal medicine, the knowledge to forage, to be able to fix everything, to have the means to build everything, just with the land you have available. That is very unrealistic for many, especially without an income. So the income doesn't have to be an external job. It could be something as simple as selling surplus eggs, selling surplus produce, being the local handyman. Doing these extra things to earn an income requires even more of your time, your valuable time that is very limited to do all of the jobs that you need to do. That's why the more people you have on your self-sufficiency journey, the better, whether that's just trading excess crops for crops that you don't grow, whether it's someone that comes and helps you occasionally and then in return you fix something for them. Community is a valuable resource when it comes to your self-sufficiency journey. As a family with limited space, have we actually managed to achieve anything that we are self-sufficient in? I would class us as completely self-sufficient in eggs. We have enough eggs for ourselves. We haven't had to buy any for over 2 years now. We water glass them for winter use, and any surplus eggs we sell, and then that pays for the chickens' feed and things like that, as we don't have the space to grow it all exclusively ourselves. Another thing we've done is we've started a mealworm farm where we breed the mealworms, which only requires the odd bag of oats and some food scraps. So that keeps the money down even further. So to me, eggs are completely self-sufficient. £15 for eggs, so that's enough for a bag of chicken feed and a bag of wheat. Another thing I would class as new this year to be self-sufficient in is garlic. So last year we did need to purchase some garlic for replanting. This year, even though we have lost many and a lot of them are a lot smaller than we wanted, we should have enough to last the year worth of eating and to store some to plant up in autumn for next year's harvest. So no money needs to be spent on garlic at all this year, or hopefully never again. Self-sufficiency isn't just about produce, it's about so many other things. It's a complete way of life, and that's something that we are learning more of every single day. But what does self-sufficiency mean to us?
What does it mean to anybody? That's a good question, isn't it? Maybe a question we could ask other people. Maybe other people from across the holdings. This is what they said when we asked that very question.
Hi Kirsty, hi Dean, it's Jo from Muddy Puddles. You find me sitting in my perennial garden amongst the rhubarb because it's really, really hot today. Thank you for your question on the across the holdings collaboration. What does self-sufficiency mean to you? And I guess it means to me that I can be secure that the food that we are eating is healthy, clean, organic, without pesticides or chemicals sprayed on it. And there's a certain amount of pride, not just in raising the food, but raising it ethically, knowing that the animals that feed us have also had a really good life too. I did attempt an experiment, I will go back to it at some point, on just eating things from the farm and things I can trade with other farmers. It is something I'm going to revisit. But the point of that was to show that actually to be self-sufficient, you need to have a community. There's no such thing as completely self-sufficient. There are always skills and things that you need to trade and barter for. And I think self-sufficiency for me means having a community around you as much as it is about having a piece of land and animals and growing crops and vegetables. Community around you, if you get sick, to have somebody to help you take care of the animals and the land. If you have a shortfall in your crops, to be able to barter and swap something you've had plenty of. For community and sharing and having relationships with people, it can be quite lonely when you're on a small holding on your own without those conversations with people. Social interaction and just the heart that goes along with that community. I think that that's one thing that quite often gets overlooked. You hear a lot of people talking about self-sufficiency and have you secured your water, have you secured your power, have you secured your carbohydrates, have you secured your protein, do you have animals, how are you going to feed your animals? And I don't feel there's enough emphasis on how are you going to stay sane, how are you going to socialise, what are you going to do if you become poorly? What are you going to do if there's an emergency? What are you going to do if one of your main crops fail? So for me, self-sufficiency, it is brilliant. It is about the food. It is about what I can achieve and grow, but it's also hugely to do with the community that I can grow around me, support me, and I can support them. Anyway, thank you for the brilliant question, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye now.
Hi Kirsty, hi Dean, I'm Adri from Adri's Farmhouse Kitchen and I'm answering your question, what does self-sufficiency mean to you? And thank you so much for asking me to answer your question, because when we first had our questions I thought, oh, I can't believe I'm not answering Kirsty's question, because it's my favorite. What it means to me, it's everything. You know, I am so passionate about self-sufficiency and I'm so passionate about anything around it, you know, growing your own food, raising your own animals, you know, having your own, let's say, water supply, herbal medicine, anything to do what kind of takes you back a little bit to the past where people were more resilient, had more knowledge, not to rely on grocery stores or, you know, healthcare providers. So, self-sufficiency, it's as soon as I wake up, I'm like, yes, what we're going to do today, we growing things what's in season. I really enjoy preserving, foraging, and it just gives me so much happiness to, learn about all these kind of lots of lost skills. Well, thank you so much for the question, and I cannot wait to answer your next one. Bye bye.
Hi Kirsty, hi Dean.
Jim and Lou from Fields and Flocks, here to answer your question of what does self-sufficiency mean to us. And I think, to me, it means the ability to grow and rear our own food.
Yeah, I think it's two things for me. It's one, it's knowing where your food's come from. It's knowing what's gone into it, it's knowing where it's come from, it's knowing that it's of a higher quality than what you can get elsewhere. And two, it's that you're not having to rely on anyone or, to get you what you need in life. It's that kind of it's all ultimately on you, isn't it? Like, you're not having to rely on other people to get you what you need. So I think for me it's two things. It's not relying on other people to give you what you need, but also it's the quality and knowing where all of your food comes from.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. It means a lot to me because it also, I would say, means my recovery as well, because it wasn't even on our radar before I was disabled. For those of you who don't know, I was injured in a car crash, and we chose this life because of a way similar to Kirsty and Dean. If you follow their channel, you'll know their story. But because of illness and disability, it forced us onto this route and path. And so to me, it also means recovery.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks for having us on the channel, guys. Pleasure as always. And we'll see you in the next one.
Hello, Kirsty and Dean. So your question this week regarding what does self-sufficiency mean to us? So self-sufficiency for us means being able to use as much homegrown, clean food as possible. When I say clean food, I mean it doesn't have any added preservatives, numbers, and that kind of thing added. It's literally out of the garden. You know how it's been grown. You know where it's come from. You know where it's been produced. And you know what's gone into actually producing that food. There is too much processed food these days, and I have problems with eating processed food. It doesn't really agree with me. The preservatives and things they use really do not agree. So yeah, so self-sufficiency for us is trying to produce and use as much clean food, non-processed food as we can. Plus it also tastes so much better. So yeah, that's really what self-sufficiency is for us. And thank you very much for your question, and we look forward to answering your next one. Take care. Goodbye.
Thank you for them answers, guys. They were wonderful, absolutely fantastic. So, on that topic, what does self-sufficiency mean to us?
To us, it means food security.
Yes, definitely. Growing our own, so we don't rely on convenience.
Resilience, so a basic solar system in case of a power cut.
Storing water, because hosepipe bans are prevalent in this country. You know how it goes. Pay your water bill, you're not allowed the water. So we store our own.
It means meeting like-minded people, even if there's not many around us.
Sharing ideas and tips is a good one.
Sharing resources, because it's practically impossible for self-sufficiency to be achieved as an individual.
Yeah, I think the overarching thing would be trying to do as much as we can ourselves and not relying on outside factors.
So more So ours is more self-reliance, most as possible self-sufficiency, but not completely.
Because with the space we have, that can't be done. Not yet anyway.
But we are doing what we can.
So thank you for watching, everybody. It truly does mean the world. Getting all these likes, subscribes, descriptions, all that down below really does help the channel. Don't forget to put them in today in this video. Really does go a long way. And after that, I think it's time we say goodbye for today. So take care, be kind to each other, take some of this knowledge with you on your future endeavours, and we'll catch you in the next one. Bye everyone.
Bye.